Carl Jung once said that the most dangerous thing a person can do is avoid themselves. He wasn't talking about meditation retreats or therapy sessions. He was talking about something far more subtle. Something we do every single day without even realizing it. You wake up. Before your feet touch the floor, your hand reaches for your phone. The screen lights up. Notifications cascade down. You scroll. One video. Then another. Then another. 15 minutes pass. Maybe 30. You don't even remember what you watched. This isn't laziness. It's not procrastination. Jung would have called it something else entirely. He would have recognized it as a mass exodus from the self. Think about it. When was the last time you sat completely still? No phone, no screen, no stimulation, just you and your thoughts. 5 minutes. Can you even do it? Most people can't anymore. And that terrified Jung decades before the first smartphone was ever invented. He warned us about this. Not about technology specifically, but about what happens when an entire civilization loses the ability to be alone with itself. He called it the shadow epidemic, the collective refusal to face what's inside. Every scroll is a choice. Every swipe is a decision. Not to engage with content, but to avoid something deeper, something that lives in the silence we've learned to fear. Jung studied patients for decades. He noticed a pattern. The people most addicted to external stimulation were the same people running from internal chaos. The louder their outer world became, the quieter they forced their inner world to be. They weren't looking for entertainment. They were looking for escape. And now we've built the perfect escape machine. An infinite feed, an endless stream, a digital IV drip of dopamine that never runs dry. But here's what Jung understood that we've forgotten. The thing you're running from doesn't disappear. It accumulates. It builds pressure. It waits in the dark corners of your psyche, growing stronger every time you reach for your phone instead of reaching inward. He called this the shadow, the rejected self, the parts of you that you've deemed unacceptable, uncomfortable, or too painful to acknowledge. And the shadow doesn't just sit there quietly. It influences you. It controls you. It makes decisions for you while you're busy scrolling past another video about nothing. Jung believed that modern humans were creating what he called a persona, a mask, a carefully constructed version of themselves designed for public consumption. But the digital age has taken this to an extreme he couldn't have imagined. Now we don't just have one persona, we have 5, 10, 20. Different versions of ourselves across different platforms, each one crafted, curated, filtered. And the more time we spend maintaining these digital masks, the less time we spend with the face underneath. The scroll is brilliant in its simplicity. It gives you just enough novelty to keep you engaged, but never enough substance to make you think. Each video is designed to trigger a micro-hit of dopamine. Not too much. Just enough to make you want one more. And one more. And one more. Psychologists call this variable reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. You never know when the next post will be the good one. The funny one. The one that makes you feel something. So you keep pulling the lever, keep spinning the wheel, keep scrolling. But Jung would ask a different question. What are you actually seeking? Because it's not entertainment. Entertainment ends. You watch a movie. It finishes. You feel satisfied. But the scroll never ends. You never feel satisfied. You just feel empty. That emptiness isn't a bug. It's a feature. 'Cause empty people scroll more. Empty people consume more. Empty people are better customers. Jung wrote about this in his concept of the collective unconscious. The shared psychological patterns that connect all humans across time and culture. One of those patterns is the hunger for meaning, for purpose, for something that matters. And when that hunger isn't fed, people become desperate. They'll consume anything, even digital junk food that leaves them more malnourished than before. The average person now spends over 7 hours a day looking at screens. 7 hours. That's more than a full-time job. More than you spend sleeping. More than you spend with the people you claim to love. And what do we have to show for it? What do we remember? Try to recall what you scrolled past yesterday. Last week, last month, it's gone. Evaporated like it never existed. Because it didn't. Not really. It was just stimulation. Just noise. Just the sound of your own mind trying desperately not to hear itself. Jung called this state of being unconscious. Not asleep, but operating on autopilot, moving through life without actually living it, reacting without responding, consuming without experiencing, existing without being. He saw this happening in his own time. People filling their lives with busyness, with social obligations, with anything that would prevent them from having to sit in silence and confront the question that terrifies everyone. Who am I when nobody's watching? Who am I without the distraction? Who am I in the dark? The scroll offers an answer. You're whoever the algorithm tells you to be. You're your watch history, your engagement metrics, your digital footprint, a data point, a demographic, their target audience. But Jung knew this was a lie. You're not what you consume. You're not your habits. You're not even your thoughts. You're the awareness beneath all of it, the consciousness that witnesses the scroll, the part of you that knows deep down that something is wrong. Every spiritual tradition warns about the same thing. The Buddhists call it attachment. The Christians call it sin. The Stoics call it passion. Jung called it the shadow. But they're all pointing at the same truth. There's a part of you that you've rejected, and that rejection is destroying you. The shadow isn't evil. It's not some dark demon lurking inside you. It's just the parts of yourself you've learned to hide. The anger you're not allowed to feel, the sadness you're not allowed to show, the desires you're not allowed to want, the thoughts you're not allowed to think. And here's what makes it dangerous. The shadow doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It just finds other ways to express itself. Through passive aggression, through self-sabotage, through addiction, through endless scrolling. Jung spent years studying people who seemed successful on the outside, but were falling apart on the inside. High-functioning depressives, anxiety-ridden achievers, people who had everything they were supposed to want and nothing they actually needed. And he found a pattern. They were all running. Running from themselves. Running from their shadows. And the faster they ran, the more exhausted they became, because you can't outrun your own psyche. It follows you everywhere, even into the endless scroll. Think about what you're actually doing when you scroll. You're not engaging. You're not creating. You're not connecting. You're consuming, passively receiving, letting someone else's content fill the space where your own thoughts should be. It's a kind of possession. The algorithm knows you better than you know yourself. It knows what will trigger you, what will keep you watching, what will make you forget about the thing you're avoiding. And it uses that knowledge to keep you trapped. Jung would call this a loss of psychological sovereignty. You're no longer in control of your own mind. You've outsourced your attention, your focus, your very consciousness to a system designed to exploit you. And the worst part, you know it. Somewhere deep inside, you know exactly what's happening. You feel it when you finally put your phone down after 2 hours of scrolling. That emptiness, that shame, that sense that you just wasted your life. That's your shadow speaking. That's the part of you that you've been avoiding, trying to get your attention. But instead of listening, you pick up the phone again. Because listening is hard. Listening means facing things, feeling things, changing things. And change is terrifying. Jung said that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. He was right. We've built an entire digital infrastructure dedicated to that avoidance, an endless machine of distraction, a monument to our collective unwillingness to be alone with ourselves. The shadow grows in the dark. Every time you choose the scroll over the silence, it gets stronger. Every time you numb yourself with content, instead of confronting yourself with consciousness, it takes more control. And eventually, you wake up one day and realize you don't recognize yourself anymore. The person looking back at you in the mirror is a stranger, someone shaped by algorithms, by trends, by other people's opinions, by everything except your own authentic self. Jung discovered something fascinating in his research. He found that the psyche needs rest, not just physical rest, psychological rest, time when nothing is happening, when no information is coming in, when the mind can just be. He called these moments active imagination, the space between thoughts where creativity lives, where insight emerges, where the unconscious can communicate with the conscious mind, where you actually process what's happened to you instead of just moving on to the next thing. But the scroll eliminates these moments entirely. There is no space between, no silence, no stillness. Just an endless stream of stimulation that never gives your mind a chance to rest. And without rest, something breaks. Jung saw it in his patients. A kind of psychological exhaustion. Not tiredness, something deeper. A depletion of the self. A hollowing out. Like they were running on fumes, but they couldn't stop running because stopping meant feeling how empty they'd become. Neuroscience backs this up. Your brain needs downtime. It needs moments when it's not actively engaged with external stimuli. That's when it consolidates memories, processes emotions, makes connections, literally rewires itself to adapt to your experiences. But if you're constantly scrolling, that process never happens. The experiences pile up. The emotions go unprocessed. The memories never form. You end up living through things without actually experiencing them. Present in body but absent in mind. Jung called this dissociation, a split between your conscious awareness and your actual lived experience. And it's becoming the default state for millions of people. They're there but not there. Awake but not aware. Alive but not living. Think about the last time you felt truly present, not thinking about what happened yesterday. Not worrying about what might happen tomorrow, just here now, fully engaged with the moment. How long has it been? For most people, it's been too long, because presence requires practice. It's a skill, and like any skill, if you don't use it, you lose it. Every hour spent scrolling is an hour not spent being present, an hour not spent developing your capacity for awareness, for attention, for consciousness itself. And consciousness is what makes you human. It's not your intelligence. It's not your achievements. It's your ability to be aware of your own awareness, to witness your own mind, to choose how you respond instead of just reacting on autopilot. But the scroll short-circuits this entire process. It keeps you reactive. Stimulus, response, over and over. No space for choice. No room for consciousness. Just an endless loop of passive consumption. Jung warned that this kind of existence leads to what he called spiritual death. Not actual death, but a death of the inner life, a death of meaning, a death of the authentic self. You keep breathing. Your heart keeps beating, but something essential has been extinguished, and you can feel it. That numbness, that disconnection. That sense that life is happening to you instead of through you, that you're a passenger in your own existence, watching from behind glass, never quite touching the reality you're supposed to be living. The tragedy is that we have more tools for self-awareness than ever before. More psychology, more neuroscience, more wisdom traditions available at our fingertips, but we use those same fingertips to scroll past it all, to avoid the very knowledge that could set us free. Jung believed that the goal of human life isn't happiness, it's wholeness, integration, the reunification of all the fragmented parts of yourself into a coherent whole. He called this process individuation. becoming who you actually are instead of who you think you should be. But individuation requires something we've become allergic to. It requires solitude, silence, self-reflection, the very things the endless scroll is designed to prevent. Here's what Jung knew that we've forgotten. Boredom isn't the enemy. Boredom is the doorway. It's the moment right before insight arrives, the uncomfortable space that precedes creativity, the void that must exist before anything new can be born. When you reach for your phone the moment you feel bored, you're not avoiding boredom. You're avoiding yourself. You're avoiding the thoughts that might emerge, the feelings that might surface, the questions that might demand answers. And those questions are important. They're trying to tell you something. Maybe that your life isn't aligned with your values. Maybe that you're pretending to be someone you're not. Maybe that you're running from something that needs to be faced. But you'll never hear them over the noise of constant stimulation. Jung said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But becoming requires unbecoming first. It requires stripping away the false selves, the personas, the masks, all the accumulated layers of conditioning and conformity that have buried your authentic nature. And that process is messy, uncomfortable, sometimes painful, which is exactly why we avoid it, why we scroll instead of sitting, why we consume instead of creating, why we stay busy instead of being still. But avoidance has a cost. Every day you spend running from yourself is a day you lose. Not just wasted time, lost potential, lost growth, lost life, because you only get so many days. And every one you spend unconscious is a day you'll never get back. The scroll promises connection but delivers isolation. It promises knowledge but delivers distraction. It promises fulfillment but delivers emptiness. And somewhere deep inside you know this. You've always known this. That's your shadow speaking. That's the part of you that's been trying to get your attention this whole time. The part that knows scrolling isn't living. That consumption isn't experience. That virtual connection isn't real intimacy. Jung taught that the shadow must be integrated, not eliminated. You don't kill it. You don't conquer it. You acknowledge it. You listen to it. You bring it into the light where it can be seen and understood and accepted as part of your whole self. And when you do that, something shifts. The compulsion loses its power. The scroll loses its grip because you're no longer running. You're no longer afraid. You're standing still, facing yourself and discovering that the thing you were avoiding wasn't so terrible after all. It was just you, the real you, the one beneath all the noise, the one who's been waiting patiently in the silence for you to finally come home. Jung said that the meeting between the ego and the shadow is the beginning of wisdom. Not comfort, not ease. Wisdom. The kind that comes from facing what's real instead of hiding in what's pleasant. The kind that emerges when you finally stop running and start being. This is the work, not scrolling less. That's just a symptom. The real work is building a relationship with your own consciousness, learning to be comfortable in your own presence, discovering that you are enough, even without the constant stimulation. Especially without it. The endless scroll will always be there, waiting, tempting, promising one more hit of dopamine, one more distraction, one more escape. But so will you. The real you. The whole you. The integrated self that Jung knew was possible, and that self doesn't need to escape, because it's not afraid of what it might find in the silence. It knows that silence isn't emptiness. It's depth. It's not absence. It's presence. It's not nothing. It's everything you've been looking for, hiding in plain sight, waiting for you to finally put down the phone and pick up your life. The age of endless scrolling isn't just a technological phenomenon. It's a spiritual crisis, a collective loss of soul, a mass exodus from the only place where meaning can actually be found. Within. But you can choose differently. You can close the app, put down the phone, sit with the discomfort, feel the boredom, face the silence. And in that silence, if you're brave enough to stay, you'll hear something. Quiet at first, but growing stronger. It's your own voice, the one you've been drowning out with constant noise. The one that knows who you really are and what you really need. The one that's been trying to guide you home this entire time. Jung's warning wasn't about technology. It was about consciousness, about attention, about the sacred responsibility we have to our own souls. To not abandon ourselves, to not trade our depth for distraction, to not scroll past the only life we'll ever have. The choice is yours. It always has been. Scroll or be. Consume or create. Escape or engage. Run or return. The phone in your hand is just a tool. But the hand itself, the mind behind it, the consciousness experiencing it all, that's you, the real you. The you that exists before the scroll begins and after it ends. And that you is worth fighting for. Worth protecting, worth knowing, even if it means spending time alone. Even if it means feeling uncomfortable. Even if it means facing the shadow you've spent so long avoiding. Because on the other side of that shadow isn't darkness, it's light. The light of integration, of wholeness, of finally becoming who you actually are. Jung knew this 70 years ago. The technology has changed, but the truth hasn't. The most dangerous thing you can do is avoid yourself, and the most courageous thing you can do is stop scrolling and start being. Right here, right now, this moment, no filter, no distraction, no escape, just you and the infinite depth of your own consciousness. That's where life lives. That's where meaning emerges. That's where you've been trying to get to all along. The scroll will still be there tomorrow, but so will you. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be a little more whole, a little more real, a little more yourself. That's Jung's forgotten warning, and it's never been more urgent than right now.